Let's talk about sin. So far in Genesis, we've looked at some amazing things. We've seen how God took this empty void of a world that was dark and nothing existed, and through his voice and through his words, he created. And he created all kinds of land and stars and filled it all with animals. And then we saw the height of his creation was when God made man, when he made Adam and Eve, people, humans, and he said, let us make man in our image, setting people apart from the rest of his creation. Then last week we saw that it was not good for man to be alone, and so God created family, and he brought Adam and Eve together in the first marriage and instituted the family so that it would reflect who God is as they were in relationship with each other. Up until this point, other than man being alone, everything has been good. People and animals are in perfect relationship with each other. People and nature are in perfect relationship with each other. But most importantly, people and God are in perfect relationship with each other. God, Adam, Eve are all hanging out in their perfect harmony, and they are in perfect relationship. When God made Adam and Eve and he put them in the garden, they had dominion over the whole garden, and there was just one simple rule: don't eat from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Why do you think God made that rule? Have you ever thought about that? Why would God say you can eat from any tree here, but there's one tree that I don't want you to eat from? Why would God allow the possibility for Adam and Eve to make the wrong decision? And what was so special about that tree? What was so tempting about it? They had all the other trees to eat from. What was it about that tree? And what's really interesting as you look at this passage is that this is not just some fun children's story, but as we look at the temptation of Adam and Eve, and as we see how the serpent tempts them, lies to them, twists the truth, really what we're going to see is the model of all temptation ever since. And so as we study this, we're not just looking back, like I said, at a children's story. No, we're looking at how does the devil tempt us? How are we tempted as people? And can we learn from the mistakes of Adam and Eve? If you guys want to dig deeper, in your leader discussion guide, there's a little section there to dig deeper and to see how Jesus overcame temptation. But what can we learn about temptation in our lives? What are the things that you're tempted by? What are the areas in your life that you seem to fail over and over and over again? And no matter how hard you try, it seems like you keep falling into that trap. See, all of us are tempted, but God tells us that whenever we're tempted, that there is a way out, that he has provided a way for us to escape that temptation. Let's learn from Adam and Eve, and while we may not be perfect, while we might still be broken people, we can learn to face our temptation head on. And we can learn from both Adam and Eve, but more importantly, learn from Jesus of how we can overcome temptation. Anytime we talk about sin, it's always going to be a little bit uncomfortable. But I hope tonight in your student group, as you look at the first sin, that you would reflect on the sin in your life. Sin always leads to brokenness and pain. Sin always overpromises and underdelivers. Sin always gives us maybe a temporary joy, but leads to long-term hurt and pain. Sin is a very real thing in all of our lives, and so we want to talk about it tonight. So tonight, as you look at this passage, as you look at the first sin, I want you to look at how the serpent tempted Adam and Eve. How are you tempted? What similar tactics does the serpent use then, and how are you tempted now? I want you to think about the way that Adam and Eve interact with each other, or even how they don't interact. How does that set the tone for broken relationships in the future? What should they have done to help each other out while they were going through this tempting situation? What should they have done to help each other out while they were going through this temptation? And don't just leave the story in Genesis, but what does this look like in your life? What are you being tempted with right now? What are sins that you're struggling with right now? And how can you overcome those temptations? How was Jesus our model? How do we learn from Genesis? And how can you, as a student group, help keep each other accountable as you go through temptation in your daily life? So let's not be afraid to talk about sin.